Shalawama, Shalawama. Welcome to Astrotheology. This is Astrotheology, our 75th live stream number 75. Give me a second, y'all. I'm going to set the settings. For those of you who don't know, every time I go live, I have to, on this platform, I have to update the settings. So anyway, so give me a minute while I do that. And y'all come on in and call a friend and let them know we are here and that we are about to begin this live stream. So we're in a new chapter today. This chapter is St. Matthew. Okay, this is St. Matthew. And the main question in this chapter is, who is St. Matthew? Who is St. Matthew? All right, that's the main question that the author is asking. So it appears to me that because the author is asking who is St. Matthew, his identity or lack of identity, St. Matthew being a mystery, has a profound impact on whether or not we should accept what's written in St. Matthew's book. Of course, there's going to be a astrological or astronomical reason for that, right? And as we read through the chapter, we're gonna understand, hopefully, where the author is going with this question, because it's a very basic question, and it is a profound question, right? So who is this guy that everybody, Matthew, it's the opening book of the Gospels. So who is St. Matthew's that we should listen to him and completely live our lives around what St. Matthew has written in that book? So it's a very profound question, a fundamental type of question, right? In other words, it's a who are you so that I should type of question, right? That's the kind of question it is. Basic, fundamental question. And that you would think that, or at least I would think, speaking for myself, that when I was in Christianity, I would have asked that question, but I didn't, right? But I didn't. But then again, that's part of being under the spell of Christianity. So let's, while I'm working on this, please call somebody, let somebody know, your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, your sons, your daughters, mother and fathers, and friends. Give them a call and let them know that we are about to start the live stream for Astrotheology. This is our 75th, that's right, 75th live stream on Astrotheology. So for those of you who are new, if you want the PDF, it's a free PDF to the Devil's Pulpit, which is the book that we're using and we have used for all of these live streams. The Devil's Pulpit by Reverend Robert Taylor. The link to the PDF is in the description area of this video. So I highly, let me rephrase that, I strongly recommend you download that PDF and then print it and have it bound, spiral bound or something like that, or even stapled, whatever you got to do, print it so that when we visualize the constellations or the celestial globe, celestial map, you'll be able to have your printed copy and look at it while we visualize these illustrations on the screen, okay? And then sometimes I'll read from the book while we're showing a image, and it'll be easier for you to follow along. You'll learn more if you just have a printed copy of the book, okay? Printed copies of books are very, very important. All right, so for those of you Moors who have been with me from the beginning. And by Moors, I mean all indigenous people, Genesis chapter 2. I want to say welcome, a special welcome to you. And those of you who are new, welcome. And my goal with these live streams is to educate you. Education will provide you a basis for what you accept, and it will give you the power to make your own decisions about what you believe. All right, because you'll have knowledge, information, and awareness when you were a child and you're introduced to whatever religious tradition you come from. You didn't have the awareness to be able to make a decision as to whether you wanted to accept that or not. Now, some of us had an awareness, consciousness that we rejected certain religious traditions. Even as children, I know I had that experience. I grew up, when I was a child, my family attended the Baptist church, but even as a young child, I rejected that. A lot of people probably had that same experience. But anyway, so that's the goal. The goal is to get you educated about astrotheology, not to change your belief system, not to change your religion. So welcome. I want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. And let's see, I think I got the settings almost together. Give me 1 second, y'all. Y'all know I have a hard time doing two things at one time. I have to either speak or focus on what I'm doing, but I've learned in my life, Dr. Dryasapa should not do both. I have to do one or the other, y'all. One or the other. Okay, so give me 1 second, all right? Oh, by the way, please like and share the video. And if you haven't subscribed, I want to invite you to do so. This information that we're going through in the Devil's Pulpit, you won't get anyplace else. This book has been out, scholar, this book has been out. It was published. Now listen to this. It was published in 1857 from a series of lectures that were given in the 1810s, 1820s, 1830s, something like that. All right. It is the absolute foremost authority on astrotheology. So the question is, why is it that you can't find this information on the internet? You know, what happened? Why can't you find it on YouTube? If you all Google search YouTube, if you Google search or search on YouTube for the Devil's Pulpit, you're going to see that there's basically nothing there. Basically nothing there. Maybe you'll see a couple 15, 20, 30-minute videos, but they're nothing. Okay, so why is that? And the author in this book has revealed to us that that 90 plus percent of all religious leaders, like your pastors, mores, moshes, etc., are involved in Freemasonry. So one of the primary claims of that the author makes, is that Freemasons wrote scripture. That's his primary claim. I mean, the essence of it. Okay. And that the scriptures tell the story of the sun's movement through the heavenly bodies. All right. That's his main claim. Okay. That's his main claim. So why is it that this profound topic, this profound and some people would say outrageous claim, why hasn't it been brought widely to the public's attention? Why is this kept hidden? Okay, why is it kept hidden? Well, it should be obvious why it's kept hidden, right? It should be obvious. Now, we've gone through 316 pages of this book. The book is 341 pages. We've gone through it. Okay. So my question is, again, why? Why hasn't someone else already done this? That's my question. Even at the level of, just a couple people talking about it, right? You see a lot of people talking about religious topics on YouTube. They're talking about tons and tons of religious topics, a lot of esoteric type of stuff. Even with the astrotheology topics that you do see on the internet, why hasn't anybody gone into this book? That should tell us something. I hope y'all agree that should tell us something about the contents of this book, the power of this book. And I can say this, it's not so much of what the book says that presents a problem to the religious people. No. That's not what it is. I can tell you what the problem is. The problem for the religious people, the problem for those people who are in power, again, it's not so much the content, but it is the methodology. It's the methodology that was used, the science that was used to develop and present the content contained in this book. So what am I trying to say to you? It is the etymology, it is the use, the demonstration of etymology and history, church father writings, mythology, architecture, art, along with etymology, a textual criticism. All right. So broadly speaking, the author is referring to these tools or sciences collectively as philology. Okay. So here is the problem for religious leaders who like to go in your pockets without you being aware that you're being robbed and getting you to agree with it. See, that's the bad part about it to me, the worst part rather. They get you to agree with them robbing you and get you to believe that you're doing something right by letting them rob you through deception. All right. That's the big problem. So what I'm trying to say is this: when you learn philology or when you learn etymology, and you're learning etymology, not the science of it, but you're learning the power of it through demonstration of looking at what's written in English and then being able to compare it to what was written in this case, Greek. There has been some Hebrew or biblical Hebrew words that the author has gone into. But this book, I would say, is 99% focused on the Gospels, okay? That's the author's primary focus and primary claim is that the Gospels are nothing more than a fairy tale. Okay, so I think I said enough. I think I've been talking enough. I'm preparing the PDF now. So again, if you haven't subscribed, consider doing so. And please like and share the video, call somebody, text somebody, and let them know that we are about to start, y'all. We are about to start, all right? We are about to start. And a special thanks to everybody who's holding it down in the comments section. Without you guys doing that for me, I would have a really, really hard time. So I really, really appreciate it. The comments are so important, not just for new people to this subject matter, but also to those people who are experienced and they have some knowledge of it, because the more you know, the more questions you have, right? The more you know, the more questions you have. And that sharing of knowledge, asking and answering questions helps even those who are versed in this topic, right? And it helps those people who may be new or at an intermediary level. Okay, it helps everybody to grow. I don't know anything. I can guarantee you all that I don't know everything. Okay, so the support that I get in the chat is very important to me. And I really, really appreciate that support in the chat. Okay, because I don't know everything. And what I know, I share. All right. And what I know, I share. So thank y'all in advance to those who are holding it down for the chat, in the chat rather. And I'm going to share the PDF now. Again, for those of you who are new, the PDF is in the description area of the video, y'all. All right, it's in the description area of the video. So it's a pleasure and an honor to be able to present this astrotheological information to the entire house of the Moors, all 16 nations, all 16 nations. We are one, sprung from the soil, and we will return to the Most High's laws, which are at their essence natural law. Natural law, y'all, natural law. When we look into the sky, we look at the starry heavens. These are natural phenomena. They are governed by the rules of nature, and nature's who? Nature's who? Nature's who? Connotatively, nature's God, nature's power, nature's creator. All right, so we are not doing anything of a religious sort whatsoever. We are seeking to understand nature. All right. In other words, science. We are returning to observing nature and then learning from it. So here we go, y'all. Here we are. This is our new chapter, St. Michael, on page 317. Page 317 of the Devil's Pulpit. The PDF is in the description area of this video. All right, so let's begin. The Devil's Pulpit, Astrotheology, live stream number 75. St. Mathew. This lecture or sermon was given in May, on May 19, 1831. 1831, almost 200 years ago, y'all. Almost 200 years ago. The theme scripture is Matthew chapter 9, verse 2. A man named Mathew. A man named Mathew, not Matthew, Mathew. All right, let's begin. Well, what of this man named Mathew? Why so much of him, sirs? And no less than affects the merit of the most important question in which man is interested, as it is the pivot on which turns the alternative of thine everlasting destiny. In other words, this man Matthew, who allegedly wrote this book, right? Your destiny is dependent on his words. Why? Because Matthew is the opening book of the gospel, and there are four other gospels, right? Four other gospels following after Matthew. So if you're going to be a Christian, you need to what? Practice whatever Matthew preached. That's the author's point. Let's continue to the next paragraph. If the profession of the Christian faith were not a system of the grossest hypocrisy, of fashionable villainy, in other words, criminality became fashionable, right? Accepted, admired. A licensed swindle, a license to steal, a license to deceive. You got a license to be a scammer. Cheat and trick, in the keeping of which each religious scoundrel thinks himself authorized in enforcing a seeming and appearance of consent from others, which he could never sincerely yield himself. Would it be possible that we should see every Christian's nose in an instant? Give me 1 second, yo. I gotta make some adjustments. I'm kind of in a cramped space here. My blood circulation to stop. Hold on. All right. Sorry about that. So let me go back. Okay, so here we are. Let me go back. If the profession of the Christian faith, the religion, were not a system of the grossest hypocrisy, of fashionable villainy, a licensed swindle, cheat and trick, in the keeping of which each religious scoundrel, that would be the pastor, right? The pastor thinks himself authorized in enforcing a seeming and appearance of consent from others, which he could never sincerely yield himself. That's outside of the religious context. Would it be possible that we should see every Christian's nose in an instant, as it were, tying itself into a knot of contempt and scorn at the enunciation of any kind of argument that could hang to the tail of a man named Matthew, and shove off all inquiry with its disdainful, and then you can fill that in yourself. So what is the author saying? The author is saying right here that in Christianity, if you are up in the church and you start asking questions that the pastor doesn't know the answer to, or that the pastor says, well, wait a minute, this guy is on to something. He's going to see that this whole Christianity or his doctrine is a fraud. Well, things are going to go bad for you. They're going to kick you out, or you're going to suffer some type of punishment, right? This is what the author is saying. He called them scoundrels. So I remember when I was a little boy, my aunt said that religion, she was talking about Christianity, attracts criminals. She was saying that it attracts criminals and ex-inmates, ex-convicts to become pastors in churches. And then she went on and on and on with why. But I remember that as a little boy. And that stuck with me. Because whenever I heard a preacher talk, they sound like con men to me. And I used to wonder, why are we even here? Even as a little boy, they sound like con men. But anyway, I don't want to offend anybody. That's my experience. All right, that's my experience. But anyway, I'm trying to show you what the author means from my point of view. Whether you agree or not, you have that right to disagree. So let's continue. What of a man named Mathew? Mathew, rather. What of him, sirs? What of him? Is it come to it then that a Christian should thus betray to us his own consciousness of connivance with priestly imposture, and that foul hypocrisy of a false and wicked heart that will, after lending its countenance to the disdaining of the sum of rather 10,359 and 560 pounds a year out of the means of a country that starves its own inhabitants to keep up the credit of a story that was told by a man named Mathew. So it appears to me that this is saying that religion extracts. Religion was, in other words, people were paying their pastors, their reverends at that time, about 10 million pounds a year while they were starving. Now note that the author says here in the second sentence of this paragraph, is it come to it then that a Christian, maybe that's you, the Christian who's listening to this, that a Christian should thus betray to his own consciousness. What is this telling us? You have doubt. You have doubt about what you've learned and what you believe, or even about the way things operate in the Christian church. But you betray yourself because you ignore the doubt, you accept it. You assume they know better than you, or you don't want to make trouble, or maybe you don't want to get kicked out because you've seen other people get kicked out. But you betray your own consciousness. You have questions, but you won't ask those questions. Or you asked the pastor and he told you, oh, well, you ain't ready for it now. That's why you don't understand. But in your heart, let me not say in your heart, intellectually, you know at some level that he's full of BS, but you accept it. So therefore you betrayed yourself. To thine own self be true. Let's continue. The author continues. We're on the last sentence, okay? We're on the last sentence. No, well, let me start back at let me just say this. So even in a time when people were hungry, they were still giving up their money to their religions, right? To their pastors. In today's world, what are people doing? They're not giving up the cash only, not just the cash. They're also giving up the life insurance when they expire. They also give their church, their religious organization, their homes, their land when they expire. Y'all see the massive wealth that they accumulate and how they don't appreciate it. And you'll see why I'm saying they don't appreciate it, because this whole business of not answering questions and kicking you out if you start asking questions didn't just begin today. It did not just begin today. It is their historical tradition. The author is going to bring that out. Let's continue. It reads here. It says the sum of 10 million pounds a year out of the means of a country that starves its own inhabitants to keep up the credit, notice this, to keep up the credit of a story. That's the gospel, according to the author, the fairy tale, the gospel, the suffering Christ, to keep up a story that starves its own inhabitants, to keep up the credit of a story that was told by a man named Mathew. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing that the government and religion, in other words, the secret societies, what? They create a environment across the whole country of what? Hardship. Hardship. Why? Because when you're suffering, you're going to be looking for help. And they've taught you to look for help to the external deity, as opposed to looking for help inside of yourself, because I can assure you, well, let me not say that. Go back and read Psalms 82, chapter 6. Go back and read Psalms 82, chapter 6, verse 6, rather. Psalms 82, verse 6, okay? So they create an environment where people are starving, they're poor, impoverished, they need help, right? So what did they do? They created a market. In business, we would say they created market demand. They created market demand for JC, the Christ figure. Y'all got it? They create market demand for JC, the Christ figure. So at this time in 1880 and before, they created that demand through creating hunger. So that people would go and pray to somebody other than themselves, right? Seeking salvation, rather, from somebody other than themselves. So this would be JC, the Christ figure, all right? Now, if they were looking at themselves as being their own salvation, what would they have done? Well, most likely they would have been quick to see the reason of their poverty and then take those people out. And then take those people out themselves instead of waiting for a deity to do it, right? So the Freemasons and other secret society members created market demand, extreme, hyper market demand for JC, the Christ figure. And in doing that, they created what? They created what? They created a platform for them to be the middleman and get paid for generations, not just paid, but to become filthy rich off of the people suffering, right? All right, so let's continue. I have to switch the page. I know this might be hard for some people to stomach, but it is what it is, y'all. This is the true history. And this is going on today. How do we see this today? We see this through manufactured prophecy, right? We see it through manufactured illnesses going on at a global level, manufactured wars going on in the Middle East, manufactured what? Red flag events, okay? End time prophecy type of stuff. That whole end time prophecy business is what we're talking about, all right? No such thing as end time prophecy, but that's another story. That's another story. All right, so let's continue. And after frightening reason from her sent by threatening us with everlasting torment. So who's threatening? The Gospels are threatening that you're going to burn in hell, right? In everlasting torment. Let me change the page. All right. Red hot blazes of hellfire and brimstone. If we don't believe the gospel, according to the man named Mathew. Now, do y'all see that? Y'all see that? If you don't believe it, you're going to burn in hell forever. Now, remember, correlate scholars, correlate the soul, S-O-U-L, is a more reverent form of the Latin word soul, S-O-L, which is in English, sun, S-U-N. So that soul, S-O-U-L, is that heat generating function mechanism, the heat generation function mechanism that warms your body, that produces heat and allows you to animate, move, think, right? The heat, when you're hot, you're alive, right? That heat is gone. That means your life force is gone. So here again, we see how the church manufactured doctrine out of thin air, manufactured doctrine, captured your imagination to believe that you have a soul, which is nothing more than the sun, S-U-N, which is in the context of the physical body, it's your heat generating mechanism. They've captured your mind, made you believe that you have a soul that leaves the body and it's going to go to heaven or hell. So now they got the what? They're going to use the stick and the carrot against you, right? You do everything that the church wants you to do, you get to go to heaven, or you get to live in the kingdom, wherever that kingdom might be in your religion, right? Because they all have their ideas about where the kingdom is. Some say it's in heaven, others say it's on earth. It's like a McDonald's versus Burger King menu, their doctrine. Okay. And then they have hell for you, where you're going to go burn forever and ever if you don't do what your church tells you to do, right? And who's telling you? It's your pastor, your elder, your pastor, your elder, and he's telling you that he's giving you capital G-O-D's, JC the Christ figure's word, right? So he himself becomes your Christ, if you look at it that way. That's my opinion. Maybe you don't see it that way, but that's my opinion. Your organization, all right? So now some religious organizations teach that you won't burn in hell, but that you'll just die forever, okay? And that scares people. So they're using the carrot and the stick and fear. And fear to what? Control you. How are they controlling you? By determining what you can perceive. And from them determining what you can perceive and what is to be feared and what is to be rewarded, they control you mentally and physically, all right? So let's continue. And after we exclaim in anxious terror, see, you're terrified, according to the author. This whole idea of burning in hell is terror, and it really, really is. Y'all ever burn your finger on a stove? That's more than hurting, right? That's more than hurting. So imagine eternity of that. And after we exclaim in anxious terror, we will believe, 1,000 times believe it. Only tell us something about the man who wrote it. Who was the man named Mathew? And after having thus robbed us, thus terrified us, or at least thus insulted us, do they shrek us off at last with a, and then it's blank? Isn't that interesting, y'all? What happened to the words here? What happened to the words here? Y'all see? Look at this line. The words are missing. I would love to know what was said next. It looks like it was removed, right? Do they shrek us off at last with a blank? So what is supposed to be there? I'm curious. Anyway, let's continue. Let's continue. What of the man named Matthew? Y'all notice how many times he has asked this question. He's asked it more than 3 times already, hasn't he? What of the man named Matthew? What consequence can it be to you to know who the man named Matthew was? All right, so we're getting to something, right? And so their doctrine, after all, is go to the church and chapel, you fools. Listen to the person, your pastor, your preacher, and shut your eyes and open your mouths and see what capital God will send you. Now, remember, the author has shown us on previous pages that there are many capital GODs. There are many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that he went through. Now, if you go to our video on YouTube, Zion Law School, Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2, we go through a very detailed presentation showing you that there's more than one capital God. That video is an eye opener, not just for that, but all of the content in that video. So go back and watch that, okay? Genesis chapter 1 and 2. All right. And it continues. What matters it to you who the man Matthew was, or whether he was a man or a horse? All right, so now I'm getting the sense of some astronomy here. Y'all got that? Whether he was a man or a horse. All right. Never was the day, never, in all the tide of time, the whole history of time, in which such mighty efforts were made to keep mankind in ignorance. Do you understand what this author is telling us? There is a systematic, organized, coordinated effort to keep you and I ignorant, to keep us ignorant. What's the primary mechanism of keeping us ignorant? Religion. The author is talking about Christianity. The primary mechanism over all the world is religion. Why? Because it captures your imagination. As we always say, it captures your imagination. It sets the boundaries of what you perceive and what you believe you can and cannot do, and what you're going to be rewarded for and punished for. And if you step outside of these accepted religious doctrines, you're going to be severely punished. And that, my friend, enslaves your mind, because you cannot see who you really are. You cannot see the power, Psalms 82:6, that you were given at birth to create your own reality, to do, be, and have anything that you want, to know that you're your own savior, and that all land, all resources, all commerce belongs to you because you are the rightful heir. Genesis chapter 2, Genesis chapter 10, Jubilees 8. You're the rightful heir. You are the law. You are the substance of the law, and you are the subject matter of the law. And outside of a more, there is nothing. But you must be willing to accept that. Wear it, and live it. Or, as they say, live the life. Let's continue. Let me just say this. So what do you choose to be? Do you choose to continue to be subjected to forced ignorance in a hybrid system? Or do you choose to step into the power, Psalms 82:6, that you really are, and return to the Most High, follow his instructions, his law, which at their essence is natural law. Return to nature, not worship nature, return to nature, living by the principles of nature. All right? Living by the principles of nature, or are you going to continue to live by religious doctrine? All right, that's the question. It's a choice. It is a choice. All right, so let's continue. Okay, where are we? Okay, so never was the day, never in all the tide of time, in all of human history, in which such mighty efforts, see that? Mighty efforts were made to keep mankind in ignorance. These are global efforts, y'all, global efforts coming out of science and government and religion, etc. Never were any clergy on earth, pagan or papistical. Pagan, well, it's going to tell you. So opposed to the diffusion of knowledge, so desperately afraid of knowledge being spread, and so bitterly hostile to the spread of knowledge as the Protestant clergy, that's the pagans, according to the author, both of the established church and the dissenters of the present day in this metropolis or in this city. So the papistical would be the Catholics and the pagans would be the reformers, okay? But ask of any one of them, these churches, these religious organizations, in his public function, the solution to any difficulty. So what is the solution to any difficulty? The author is saying here, ask them a question. Specifically, ask them a question about the Gospels. In this case, maybe you have a question about whether JC, the Christ figure, was really resurrected, or some specific question that you have. The author is saying, ask them. Let's continue. But ask any of them in his public function, that would be as a priest, pastor, reverend, etc., the solution to any difficulty. Ask them any difficult question that you have on which your mind's peace may be at stake in the most respectful manner that you possibly can. The whole congregation will rise in instant alarm to have you forcibly ejected, as if they looked on you as a mad dog broken in among them. Okay, now I know that this happens to people. I know from experience that this happens to people. You go in there and ask a question that they don't want to hear. As respectful and as humble and as innocent and sincere as you are, they're going to dog you out. Some of y'all have experienced this, right? Ask any of them, one of them in private, to relieve your doubt or satisfy your curiosity, regardless of your motive. You got doubt or you're curious. You would instantly be disdained as an insolent and offensive intruder or remanded